So, I read a book. It was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm going to share what I learned. Chapter 1: Don't Work. I learned that it would take 6.5 million years to make the amount that Elon Musk has just by saving. And obviously, no one's going to live that long. Saving does not make you money. Being rich isn't about being smart. It's about understanding what money is. Working for your money isn't the right way to do anything. You shouldn't be thinking, I can't afford that. You should be thinking, how can I afford that? And you also should not be working for money. You should be working to learn. Now, the book says that life is controlled by two things: fear and greed. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I kind of get what he's saying. We need money, and we're scared of running out of money. And that's why we work as hard as we do. But we need to shut that off and think more critically. We need to think like a millionaire. So you need to make your money work for you. That's having a business. Jobs are short-term solutions to the challenge of building your net worth. Now, what exactly does that mean? So, it's not about how much money you make. It's about the money that you keep. Because school does not teach you how to be an entrepreneur like it needs to. It teaches you how to be an employee. So it puts you in this mindset that, oh, if I make more money, I can spend more. But that's not necessarily the case. If you're making more money, you should be investing more. You should be using that money to make more money on top of that. Something else that's important is cash flow. Now, you're probably asking yourself, oh, I know what cash flow is. It's just my money going from one place to the next. No. Cash flow is what happens to your money from when you get paid onward. That's it. Now, if you look at it from different perspectives, let's say a very poor person, he gets his money, he spends it all on food and all on like immediately because he has to. That's living paycheck to paycheck. Now, let's say someone else who's a bit more middle class is, he's a little bit more well off. He can afford some things. Now, he's going to put that money into two categories: assets and liabilities. You're probably thinking, well, what are assets? Well, assets are things that help you make more money. Assets are putting more money in your pocket, but liabilities are just a siphon. They're just taking money. For instance, houses, you're probably thinking that's an asset, but no, that's a liability. Because the longer you have that house, you're just paying a mortgage, you're doing bills, all that. You're doing that. But let's say you just live in an apartment. Let's say you buy a couple of apartments. You rent those apartments out. People are paying you rent. You have tenants. That is an asset. Now, taxes. If you were to work for 40 years, on average, you would be giving back 6 years of that work to the government. In Colombia, they have a saying: here we work to live, but Americans live to work. And they say that because Americans, their lives are centered around their work. We do everything for our work, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Life isn't about the money you make. It's about the money you keep. Don't focus on your income. Focus on your assets. Now, you should always have a side hustle. And I think this actually relates pretty well to class. when we learned, I think it was at the start of the year, that you need to not only be putting money, aside for the future, like saving and investing in a Roth IRA or your 401k, but it's important to, along with that, learn things while you're working. So if that's your main way of making funny, that's fine. But you should be doing something where you're actively gaining more knowledge. Um, Never take money out of your asset column, no matter what. That money stays there. Your money can work for you 24/7. You don't have to worry. You don't have to pay money. Listen, you need to have two things. You need to have a profession and you need to have a business. Don't confuse those two. Your profession, that's your job. You're 9 to 5, you're going in, you're working, whatever. That's fine. But your business, that's where you should really be making money. Like I was talking about earlier, that's your apartment that you're renting out. That's your whatever. Just anything on the side that's making money. That's your investments. Um, Chapter 4 of the book was talking about the history of taxes, which we learned in class about personal taxes. And personally, I could see how taxes are a huge deal, but taxes were originally designed to hurt the rich. It was actually meant to take from the rich, which obviously it doesn't, because that's a flawed system. But that's very off topic. Corporations are designed to protect wealth, and they do that because the rich don't simply sit by and let things be taken from them. They're more reactive to anything. All right. Um, Corporations can do things that people can't do. For instance, corporations pay taxes in a very different way. With people, you earn the money, you get taxed, and then you can spend what's left. But with a corporation, you get the money, you spend the money, and then you're taxed on what remains, which is why corporations usually have way more money to spend than your average person, because they're not worrying about if they can live off what's been taxed. They're worried about living and then paying the tax. Um, Also, the cyberpunk thing, that's kind of for me. None of you guys get that, probably. Rich people aren't necessarily smart, and that's very complicated. So let me explain that. Um, in the real world, it's not smart people that get ahead. It's the bold. All right. So the more you think about money, the harder you'll work for it. But if you can grasp the idea that money isn't real, it's not like a tangible thing, it's not a clear object, you will grow rich faster. Right? The definition of wealth is defined by society. It could be anything. Years ago, it was land, and then it was owning factories. But now, today, wealth is information. And being smart, it does help. Like, you can have financial intelligence, like, now, being so, I'm not saying that it's impossible to be smart, but it's not absolutely necessary. You can have financial intelligence. That would let you have much more options for what you're doing. Knowledge is the greatest wealth that you can have. Job security is dumb. Semicolon learn. Let me explain that, because on paper that sounds awful. So what he's trying to say with this is that you shouldn't be worrying about your job itself. You should be worrying more about the experience. For instance, let's say I'm a plumber and I'm very new to being a plumber, and I go to work for some company, and I want to learn this skill. I shouldn't be worried about getting fired. I should be worried about understanding what this job is. Um, and learning it should extend to more than that, but that's a very easy example. Like you should be learning sales, accounting, investing, law. Those are a great way to be making money because all of those things help you. Everybody is selling something, even if you don't realize it, or if it's not a tangible thing. People can be selling ideas. I mean, I would argue that religion is the biggest sales game in the world. So you should not be great at one particular thing. You should be good at everything. You should be working a job for money and working a job for knowledge. And that knowledge can mean many different things, but I would say that you should be working for knowledge of the business world itself. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this presentation. Don't join a pyramid scheme, and have a nice day.